Dominion Voting Systems has filed a defamation lawsuit against the MyPillow CEO, Mike Lindell, which argues that he spread false information by claiming that its voting machines rigged the 2020 presidential election. Now, Dominion Voting Systems is seeking more than $1.3 billion in this defamation suit. And by the way, Mike Lindell, of course, is not the only person they're suing for this purpose. We'll get to Rudy Giuliani a little later in the story. But here's what we know so far based on the lawsuit that's been filed. They write that he is well aware of the independent audits and paper ballot recounts conclusively disproving the big lie, the complaint states. It goes on to accuse Lindell of exposing Dominion to, quote, the most extreme hatred and contempt, end quote, adding that his statements were calculated to and did in fact provoke outrage and cause Dominion enormous harm. Let me just say that defamation lawsuits are incredibly difficult to prove. However, I think that this is a pretty good case because not only do you have to prove that the statements made were false, you have to prove something known as actual malice, that these statements were made with malicious intent. And considering all of the overwhelming evidence indicating that there was no wrongdoing, there was no election fraud, the dozens and dozens of court battles that the Trump campaign lost, I think it's pretty easy to prove that Mike Lindell continued to engage in spreading false information, even though there was overwhelming evidence indicating that what he was spreading was false. Also, at the center of the lawsuit, Dominion alleges that Lindell's conspiracy claims are not the result of an earnest belief in election fraud, but a ploy to sell pillows. So this goes back to what I was referring to in regard to malice, right? Lindell, a talented, they're very generous here. Lindell, a talented salesman and former professional card counter, sells the lie to this day because the lies sell pillows. Lindell's defamatory marketing campaign has increased MyPillow sales by up to 40%. And Lindell's campaign is, quote, redirecting their election lie outrage into pillow purchase. So, Ryan, what is this? Is this just a case of lunacy? Is this just a symptom of capitalism? What's going on here?
No, I mean, they seem like they have a really good case. And so at the Intercept, we have 2 full-time defamation attorneys because we do so much investigative journalism, and because the subjects of our investigations often are extremely rich and powerful people who are going to look for any misplaced comma to try to sue for defamation. And like you said, it is very hard to make a defamation claim in the United States, and full credit to the First Amendment for that. On the other hand, you have to be very careful about what you say about powerful people to make sure that it's truthful and it's accurate. And malice doesn't only mean that you hate a person, like it's not just that kind of colloquial understanding. Malice can also mean that you had every reason to know that what you were saying was a lie or was untrue or was unsubstantiated, and you said it anyway. And you didn't necessarily have to say it because you hate the person, but you had to say it for some other purpose, whether that purpose is electing Trump, the purpose is hurting this company, whether the purpose is helping your own pillow company. And all 3 of those things, probably appear to be the case. And they'll have no problem, showing that he was aware of all of the evidence, that what he was saying was untrue. And I think they'll also be able to prove damages in a real way. Because think about it, if we have a broken, corrupt system when it comes to election administration, where there are only a handful of companies that counties and states can contract with to do the work. That's wrong. That's not how it should be. That's how it is in almost every sector. That's how it is in the voting electronics sector. And so if you're an election official at this point, and your choice is between Dominion, which has now been defamed to the point where half of the population is going to think that it's some Venezuelan scam to steal an election, or some other company that nobody's heard of, if you're a risk-averse bureaucrat, you're going to think, you know what? I'm gonna go with the one that nobody's heard of. So I think that they have a very credible case to make that they have done serious and perhaps irreparable damage to them. Doesn't mean they were a good company to begin with, but it doesn't mean they were Hugo Chavez run conspiracy to like flip elections to Joe Biden.
Right, exactly. I agree with you. I think they do have a great case. One person who doesn't seem to agree with us, though, unsurprisingly, is Mike Lindell himself, who told the Wall Street Journal that he's, quote, very, very happy about the lawsuit. He says, I have all the evidence on them. By the way, this has been stated by Lindell and others, and they've never, ever shown us a shred of evidence, ever. But anyway, he claims I have all the evidence on.
Yeah, what kind of traitor do you have to be? You're telling me you have actual evidence that the election was stolen. This is the most sacred, the transfer of power, the most sacred thing we have. You're telling me the election was stolen and you have evidence and you withheld it? Treasonous.
Yep, treasonous, exactly. So this is either treason or defamation. I mean, take your pick, Mike Lindell. But look, Lindell isn't the only person who's dealing with this lawsuit. Others are also being served, including Rudy Giuliani, who is also being sued for $1.3 billion. So the only thing is, it was a lot more difficult to serve him this lawsuit because he was kind of doing what he could to skirt it. So Giuliani evaded in-person service of process for nearly a week. It took numerous attempts at both his home and office before we were able to successfully serve Giuliani on February 10th. Another source, by the way, gave the Daily News a detailed account of how it went down. And I don't know if it makes me a bad person to find this amusing, but on February 7th, a pair of process servers and Giuliani got into an awkward standoff. That morning, the doorman and the building waved to a Ford Explorer SUV parked down the street. Giuliani got in the passenger seat and closed the door as the process server lunged forward with a bag full of documents. And then for the next 2 days, the process server failed to intercept Giuliani. The process server left the bag in front of Giuliani's building. These documents now belong to Giuliani, the process server declared. So looks like Giuliani's trying to run away from it because maybe they don't have evidence that Dominion engaged in anything shady.
Right, yeah, he's apparently in no hurry. I mean, we ought to have paper ballots. The idea that we have, just simply these companies is wrong. That's a completely different point from this claim that Hugo Chavez and Dominion produced some algorithm that flipped votes. There's just absolutely no evidence for it. Long after it was clear there was no evidence, they kept saying it. And like you said, there might actually be consequences for behavior here.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't actually checked in on this, but I'm curious if you have. Is Rudy Giuliani still a lawyer? I mean, is he still approved by the bar to practice law?
He has not been disbarred. So wow. He's still able to practice law. And he was one of the he was one of the most powerful lawyers and one of the best when it comes to just pure talent and skill and like racking up victories and press coverage in the country. And then he was working for global law firms that were raking in millions of dollars on the back of his legal work, which was corrupt and which was cashing in on his like 9/11 mayor shtick that he was running on for a very long time. But right, he's now at the point where the question you asked is one that can be asked in a serious way.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.